Hello everyone, Elder Bill Smith here, Ordinary Christian at YouTube, here to talk about a very interesting subject tonight. The subject of financing the kingdom. Now we know that we're living in the last days of this dispensation of grace. So it's up to us to do everything within our human power to go ahead and make this time count. My objective has always been to break free of the gravity of the workaday lifestyle and invest in opportunities that would give me the freedom to utilize my greatest asset, which is not money, but time. We only have so much time here on this earth, and it's time to make it count for the kingdom. With that being said, I want to tell you about something that I've discovered and that I think has to be the greatest lifetime risk to reward ratio that I've ever seen. The more I study it and the closer I look at it, the better and more sound an opportunity it becomes. Unless a cryptocurrency has utility, it's simply a Ponzi scheme, essentially gambling. So, what exactly is XRP cryptocurrency? XRP is a cryptocurrency coin created by the company Ripple. And if you can imagine a stone being thrown into a pond, this company is going to create a disturbance across the whole financial sector. The purpose of XRP is to serve as an intermediate method of exchange, like conversion of the US dollar to the Japanese yen or the British pound. International money conversion has always been a big issue throughout history. I even had my own story of how frustrating this can be. I once had a fledgling import-export business which involved shipping laptop computers to the African nation of Zimbabwe. That's right, Zimbabwe. There was a great need for computer equipment there, and it could have been a very lucrative business, except for one problem. There was no easy way to get the money back. You see, Zimbabwe was going through a period of hyperinflation, and the banking industry had collapsed. You can probably remember the famous Zimbabwe $100 million bill, which wasn't worth enough to buy you a hamburger. My contacts there in Africa sent me back some of the beautiful wood and stone carvings which they are famous for as a means of payment. But this was costing me a fortune. Stone and wood carvings are heavy. This created a cash flow problem and eventually meant the end of the business. But I'm not the only one to experience this problem. International settlement has always been a problem. Let's take a brief look through the pages of history. Back in the early 19th century, the British Empire had the biggest trading network in the world. One of their main trading partners was China, and the British were very happy with their trading partner. However, there was an issue because the Chinese wanted to only be paid in silver. And silver was something the British didn't have enough of to spread throughout their entire trading empire. So, in order to serve the amount of silver coin that they had for trade worldwide, the British decided that they would have a clever substitute. The British decided that they would trade the Chinese merchants, the Han, with opium rather than silver. Well, as you can imagine, the Chinese got tired of that pretty quickly. Yeah, I know, right? And as a result, the first opium war between China and Great Britain took place in 1839. Well, you pretty much know how that went. In concession to the British, the Chinese signed a predatory lease agreement for a small peninsula of land by the name of Hong Kong. When asked why he chose the period of time of 99 years to have this lease, the British representative, Claude MacDonald, said that he picked the 99-year lease because he thought that was, quote, as good as forever. Well, he was wrong. And if you're my age, you can remember the age of the digital gold rush with the invention of the internet. There were literally hundreds of companies springing up overnight, much like the cryptocurrency boom that we're in now. And like that digital gold rush, only a few will survive. Just like those internet startups, not all cryptocurrencies will make it. Crypto's valuation will be based on utility, not on speculation. Think about the major companies from the 1990s and 2000s that aren't here anymore. Think about it. There are now 20,000 plus cryptocurrencies at the time of this video. And with the exception of Bitcoin and Ethereum, which have been given a free pass by the SEC, none of those 20,000 plus have regulatory clarity. If XRP wins the lawsuit with the SEC, and it's going very much in their favor at this time, they will be the only ones that have regulatory clarity as determined by a federal court. So how do we know that XRP is a cryptocurrency of great value? The reason is because they're letting us know. The powers that be are telegraphing their punch. They're showing us by all of the regulatory capture that they are trying to gift wrap cryptocurrency and give it to the banks. How do we know? Because of all the backroom dealings between the SEC and the legacy financial institutions. Listen to attorney John Deaton.
Let's say you did your research and invested in an asset you knew a lot about, owned by millions of people and billions of units trading on markets around the world. And you played by the rules as you knew them. But then one day, your investment was wiped out. This really happened to millions of ordinary people who invested in or built their business with the cryptocurrency XRP. But it wasn't because of a scam or fraud or market volatility. It was because of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The SEC claimed in a lawsuit that the XRP token is an unregistered investment in a company called Ripple that uses the token. Most XRP holders had never even heard of Ripple, so they looked into it. XRP holders discovered that SEC officials Jay Clayton and William Hinman both have financial ties to XRP's major competitor, Ethereum. In fact, in 2018, while he was still working for the government, Hinman gave a speech that was largely written by lobbyists declaring that Ethereum's cryptocurrency, Ether, is not a security. Ether's price skyrocketed, more than 600% since then. And Hinman? Well, he sat in his government office and collected $15 million from a law firm that promotes Ethereum. The same factors Hinman used to argue a free pass for Ether could better be applied to XRP. And yet when XRP users asked the SEC for regulatory clarity, they never got a straight answer. Instead, on his last day at the SEC, Jay Clayton filed suit against Ripple, causing the value of XRP to plummet, and with it, many investors' hopes. While XRP holders are waiting for a long court case to play out, Hinman is a senior partner with the billionaire Ethereum investors who helped write his speech. And Clayton is working for a hedge fund that made $1 billion bet on Bitcoin and Ether. The SEC shouldn't get to pick winners and losers, which is why tens of thousands of XRP holders have entered the lawsuit as friends of the court against the SEC. The outcome of this court case will influence the future of regulation for all cryptocurrencies in the United States. If the SEC wins, what happened to XRP could happen to every crypto coin. But even more troubling would be letting political appointees from any party have more control over your investments than you do yourself. Government regulators have to level the playing field, not unfairly tip the scale for their friends. For more information and to join the fight, visit Crypto Law at crypto-law.us. If the SEC is not going to protect us, then we have to stand up for ourselves.
Just listen to these thoughts by current SEC Chairman Gary Gensler regarding new startup technologies having to fork over part of their profits.
One central monopolist with another central monopolist, a lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you could put a native token in there, and you give them the native token. So there may be other incentive ways to beat the current monopolist.
Regulatory capture occurs when an agency created to protect the public interest instead protects the interests of groups that dominate the industry in an attempt to capture it and gift it to the incumbent.
I think we have an internet chart, by the way, of Ethereum. Let's see if we can pop it up there. This is what I'm talking about. So you see over there, that was after the comments by the SEC. So
now you see the result of the SEC giving clarity to Ethereum. Expect the same type of dramatic price action when XRP receives some type of decision from the court. In most cases, a Bitcoin transaction takes an hour to an hour and a half to complete and uses as much electricity as the average US household uses in 50 days. That's the reason that Elon Musk and Tesla no longer use Bitcoin for purchases of their electric vehicles. Now, Elon Musk has a fascination with the letter X, X.com, SpaceX, and his son's name, which is, so much for talking about rappers' names. This would also be a great way for Elon to get back at the SEC, which sued him and almost put him out of business when he was first starting Tesla by picking a cryptocurrency, XRP, which they tried to also destroy. It would be a real slap in the face to the SEC. Elon says that he was forced to admit to wrongdoing that he was not guilty of.
Not have respect for the SEC in that situation, and I don't mean to blame everyone at the SEC, but certainly the San Francisco office. It's because the SEC knew that funding was secured, but they pursued an active public investigation nonetheless. At the time, Tesla was in a precarious financial situation, and I was told by the banks that if I did not agree to settle with the SEC, that the banks would cease providing working capital and Tesla would go bankrupt immediately. So that's like having a gun to your child's head. So I was forced to concede to the SEC unlawfully. Those and now it makes it look like I lied when I did not in fact lie.
This fueled speculation as to what cryptocurrency he would use to replace Bitcoin. In environmental terms, XRP is actually the most eco-friendly of all the cryptocurrencies. That and the fact Ripple is in litigation with the SEC may be just enough to put XRP over the finish line. Now, I know some of you are asking, where does all of this sage-like financial advice come from? Well, let me tell you that I have always had a really good knack for investing. I just haven't had a great amount of money to put in, and that's been the story for a lot of people. If you didn't start investing by the time you were in your late 20s, then you have already gone against the curve. It is very difficult to catch up if you start investing later in life. And it wasn't that I wasn't a prolific investor early on. I had an event which caused me to have to liquidate all of my investments. I became a single parent to my oldest daughter. I had Apple stock when it was less than 35 cents a share. I had Amazon when it was under $3. Microsoft at $26. Been over $300. Don't believe me? Okay, well maybe you'll believe Harvard University. Harvard, Ripple XRP, and Stellar Lumens will be backbone of payment system of the future. The Harvard report explains how Ripple and Stellar can facilitate faster settlements of CBDCs worldwide. CBDCs being central bank digital currencies. Ripple's XRP and Stellar Lumens have thus become a go-to choice for international businesses. It comes down to this in the end. To the church, we say, if we had been there with Moses in the wilderness, we wouldn't have been the ones who rebelled. We would have been the ones who went into the promised land. We would have been like David. But let me say this to you, people of God. We're still living in the pages of Scripture. We're living in the pages of Scripture right now. Are you going to be that bold, intrepid person? Then get out of the boat, Peter. Get out of the boat and start walking. When are you going to go ahead and make that bold move? So I'll wrap this up and say that there are many ways that you can go ahead and research this, enrich your knowledge greatly by doing your own research, and I encourage you to. Because of the SEC lawsuit, XRP is not available on most crypto exchanges to U.S. citizens. Ripple has said they're already proceeding as if they've lost the lawsuit because 95% of all of their business is international. So there is an extremely limited downside because the downside has already been built into the price. Now, can you lose money? Absolutely. And I'm telling you here and right now that you can lose money. But investing is all about risk to reward ratio. And the risk is very minor. Ripple and XRP is a train that has left the station, and there is no bringing it back. There's some risk to not doing anything, keeping your money in a money market fund. There's great risk in not doing anything, and in fact, the risk of not doing anything is greater. I talked to a friend of mine at work a while ago and tried to get him to consider buying XRP. He told me that a long time ago, a girl that he was dating in Thailand had tried to get him involved in Bitcoin. She really begged him to go ahead and get involved, but he told her he wasn't interested. So he said, I wonder what happened to her. So after a while, and we were talking by text message, he sends a text back and says, this is her. She's rich. Now you do what's right for you. This video is not financial advice. This video is for informational purposes only to allow you to make an informed decision based on your financial goals and needs. Make sure that you store your cryptocurrency offline in a cold storage device. I use a Ledger Nano, but there are plenty of other reputable manufacturers. Now to put the icing on the cake, here's Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple.
HSBC is probably number 2, but JPM is way up there at the top, and they're making a lot of money from other banks. When we go talk to banks, 99.9% of banks, they're like, we want Ripple to be successful. Because I'm sick of paying these guys, and they're taking a lot of money from me that I then have to take from my customer. And why do I want to feed Citi to be more competitive with me in this local market?
Just listen to SEC Chairman Gary Gensler try to defend the banks in this segment.
Panic in their voices. But hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what?
Just
what
feel the panic in their voices. But here's what always happens. The first thing that happens is they try to go, oh, it's nothing. And they did that. I mean, that's with every new industry, every new technology comes along, the powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say, it's nothing. Don't ignore the man behind the curtain. This is nothing. And then all of a sudden it's too big to get in there. They're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government.
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology. I think.
No, that's at the end.
They will adopt this technology.
No, this is the last thing they do. No,
it's like
it's after. It's after the press planning. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits. They create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved. And then they go, oh God, this thing's happening.